thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It is Wednesday, January 1st, and today is a National Bloody Mary Day, you guys. Any thoughts on Bloody Marys? I mean,
yeah, it's the hair of the dog that bit you, right?
I mean, it is the breakfast drink of alcoholic beverages, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like a Bloody Maria a little bit more personally.
A Bloody Maria. Oh man, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. It's also
it's tequila instead of vodka.
Oh, okay. It's also National Hangover Day, as a majority of the people on the show are apparently having a hangover this morning. And that's right. It is New Year's Day. Happy New Year's, everybody. Congratulations. We have all made it to 2025. And we do want to send our thoughts and prayers with all of the victims in New Orleans that were out celebrating New Year's and did not get the opportunity to make it to New Year's. And so we want to make sure that our thoughts and prayers are with all of those that were lost and with the families that lost loved ones. And so we do want to make sure that we do acknowledge that. And anyways, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, and on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms. And we're going to start the show off. I think I have some good news for you, Dale and Sohum, today. We're going to start this off with some good news, and then we're going to get into all the craziness. Because Massachusetts grants a $26 million to marijuana business owners affected by, in quotes, you guys, the war on drugs. That's right. They say Reagan's war on drugs ripples in Massachusetts to this day. Now a state program is seeking to support 180 cannabis business owners with grants to start and scale their businesses. At age 48, Demarius Aponte did not foresee earlier in life that she would be a part of the cannabis business, much less hold the reins as its CEO. As a teen, she regularly smoked marijuana, a habit her traditional Puerto Rican parents frowned upon. They feared they would lose her to the streets, a fate that took the life of her older brother Miguel many years ago in a drug-related stabbing, she recalls. Now the owner of the two cannabis companies, Riverside Cannabis and Blossom Flower, Aponte is ramping up her business delivering and manufacturing cannabis products. She's only 5 months in, but has been building towards this moment for the last 4 years. In a quote, she says, "I'm a hustler," Aponte said. De la calle de Holyoke, she said in Spanish, from the streets of her hometown in Holyoke. Most recently, Appointe's business are getting a much-needed cash injection from the Massachusetts Cannabis Social Equity Grant Program run by state officials in an effort to support entrepreneurs from communities disappropriately harmed by marijuana prohibition and enforcement. The program, which launched in September, is in its first full round of grant making. And in a quote, they say, "We are pleased to provide these grants to 180 business owners from populations that were impacted by the war on drugs and expand economic opportunity in communities across Massachusetts," said Governor Maura Haley. In a recent statement, she added, "The program, in quote, provides marijuana entrepreneurs with much needed support as they start and scale their businesses." While the adult use and sales of marijuana products remains illegal in some states, a growing number have embraced it. In 2008, Massachusetts voters voted to decriminalize cannabis and then created a medical marijuana system, with the first dispensaries opening several years ago and a full adult use market open to adults back in 2018. Appointe's two businesses received a combined $750,000 with the funds she plans to pay off bills, buy another vehicle to deliver products to customers, and to fix her HVAC system in one of the buildings. In total, the Executive Office of Economic Development received 278 applications through the Cannabis Social Equity Grant Program, funded by cannabis licensing and application fees. 10 of those grants went to business owners in gateway cities, you guys. In a powerful move from the state officials to amend the harm of the Reagan administration campaign, which sought to curb drug use, but ultimately led to the disappropriate incarceration of more people of color in low-income urban areas in Massachusetts and across the country. Mandatory minimums for nonviolent drug-related charges specifically affected Black and Latino men, breaking up families and damaging communities for decades. How come they don't ever mention the Joe Biden 94 crime bill when they mention Reagan all the time? Okay, whatever.
Or Richard Nixon.
Yeah.
Started it.
Exactly. While the state has attempted to change the system, the impacts to communities of color ripple out to this day. And a Massachusetts Sentencing Commission report from 2019, for example, found that 23% of defendants convicted of mandatory drug offenses were white, while 70% were Black or Hispanic, despite data that show white, Hispanic, and Black people use illicit drugs at similar rates. When it comes to cannabis business owners today, these patterns also show up across the state. White business owners dominate the landscape, and fewer than 10% of cannabis owners are Latino or Hispanic, and 7% are Black or African American, according to the State Cannabis Control Commission. Appointe keeps that in mind and is proud to have hired two people in the community with former drug convictions. In a quote, she says, "The dream that I'm living right now is amazing," she said. Thinking of her brother, she said, in a quote, "He'd be so proud of me right now." Well, I think this is great news, minus a lot of the gaslighting in this story. I think this is great news that the state of Massachusetts is trying to help out these business owners because we all know that they all need service. I mean, everybody in cannabis needs help financially for the most part. And so I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see some of the revenue, the tax revenue that cannabis businesses have generated come back to help businesses that need it now. I know. I don't know the specific tax rates in Massachusetts, but I would assume that they overtax it just like they do in every other market. So
they're a Democratic state, it's nice it's overtaxed.
Yeah, I mean, they do that in red states too. Let's stop the cat. But yeah, no, I'm glad to see them giving some of that money back to businesses that need it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think this is a good thing overall. I like what she plans to do with it. You know what I'm saying? Expand her delivery, fix her HVAC. You know what I mean? Pay off bills. I mean, I think paying off bills is probably one of the most important things because that's the bills ain't going away. It's not like student debt.
Well, in my experience, problems come into the details of how they actually help these folks. Mm-hmm. I've had multiple social equity clients, and it turns out that when you dump money into something, it tends to get swooped up by people who really don't help the applicant benefit. they, fill their own pockets and provide what they claim to be, a service to these folks.
Mm-hmm.
When you have to then come hire me because shit's upside down and backwards. You ask them, well, why didn't you know this going in? Well, because the programs they put together didn't teach us this. The fact is, over half of businesses fail in the first 5 years, irrespective of any outside assistance. So you've got to target the people running these businesses, teach them the fundamentals of how to run a business lean and mean. Stop expecting the bro culture to come in and everybody just do things for you because you're in some particular class of people. That is not going to last forever. Mm-hmm. You got to learn to run businesses, and they can keep throwing money at them to buy new things. But if the managers of the business don't know what the hell they're doing, and you're just throwing good money after bad.
Yep.
So my focus would be, what does the local jurisdiction do to help you understand how to actually run a business, make it profitable, especially in this horrible environment we have where you're taxed effectively at 50 to 70%, and that takes away your margins. How do you run business when people want to, I want to have 5 bud tenders come out there and hold your hand and explain to you how to use this and what it does, and you can't even afford one.
Yep.
Okay? It's the mindset has to be changed, or the business is going off the cliff, and that money's not going to fix that. You got to teach people how to run a business.
Most definitely. Most definitely. I totally agree with all of that, Dale. Do you have any other thoughts on this, Sohum, before we move on?
I think the article might have gotten it wrong. The war on drugs was Richard Nixon. I think the Just Say No campaign was Reagan. If I'm correct.
You are 100% correct on that. But this is written by the Boston Boston Herald, which is a pretty wokey paper, and they always want to fire shots on Reagan anytime they can because they don't really like to remember history appropriately or whatnot. But to each their own.
Yeah, but Tip O'Neill was the guy who allowed minimum mandatories to be used after Lynn Bias died from a coke overdose.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we can't forget that there's a lot of history here. And, of course, the Democrats bought into, let's bring conspiracy in, let's lock everybody up for every goddamn reason we can think of that we can justify.
Yep.
We'll throw them all in jail. And this happened. I mean, Joe Biden was responsible for as much of this as anybody else. So the history of the war on drugs is horrible. Cannot prohibit human conduct. Everybody and his brother knows about marijuana. You can't pretend like they haven't been exposed to it. So to try and make it illegal and then lock people up without putting the resources in to solve the problems is, the war on drugs was an absolute failure. Drugs won.
Yep. Drugs won. Shout out to drugs. And on that one, we're going to roll into a commercial, and we are going to be right back.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. That. So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
Yes, and we are back. Guys, I'm gonna roll right into my second story, and then we're gonna roll into roll into Dale's story. But I think you guys will find this extremely interesting, you guys. And this touches us on a story that I covered yesterday. We were talking about in Kentucky, where they're saying that if you apply for a medical marijuana card, that you have to give up your gun rights in Kentucky. And this right here, Dale, you are going to love this, because in Texas, that's right, your home state, Sohum, that's right, shout out to Austin, because a federal judge rules that a gun ban for marijuana consumers is unconstitutional, you guys. That's right. Pow, pow, pow. How you like me now? A federal judge in Texas has dismissed an indictment against a man who was charged with possessing firearms while using marijuana, ruling the federal law prohibited such conduct as unconstitutional. U.S. District Judge David Briones, presiding over the Western District of Texas, ruled against the prosecution of Adrian Gill II, citing that the government failed to prove that Gill was intoxicated at the time of his arrest. The case, the United States of America versus Adrian Gill II, was dismissed with prejudice, meaning it cannot be refiled, making another significant decision challenging federal restrictions on firearm ownership for marijuana users, you guys. The case originated back in July of 2021 when El Paso police responded to a call about a disturbance at Gill's residence. Upon entering, officers discovered 2 large vacuum-sealed bags of marijuana and several firearms. Gill, a daily marijuana user since the age of 14, acknowledged owning the firearms and possessing a medical marijuana card from New Mexico, but admitted he was aware that federal law prohibited gun ownership for marijuana users. He was indicted under Section 18 U.S.C. 922 G3, and he pled guilty and was sentenced to 35 months in prison before appealing the case. Judge Briones applied the Second Amendment framework established by the U.S. Supreme Court in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin. The test requires firearm regulations to align with the text, history, and tradition of firearms laws as understood at the time of the nation's founding. Briones found that the Second Amendment protects all members of the political community, including Gill, and that the historical record does not support disarming individuals based solely on past or habitual marijuana use, you guys. Look at that, Dale. That's a good ruling right there. In a quote, the Fifth Circuit made clear that history and tradition do not support disarming someone solely based on past drug use. And Briones wrote, he added that the government failed to demonstrate that Gill was intoxicated at the time of his arrest, which the court deemed necessary to justify restrictions on his gun rights. The decision aligns with prior Fifth Circuit rulings that have increasingly questioned the constitutionality of federal gun laws applied to marijuana users, particularly in states where marijuana remains illegal. The ruling underscores ongoing legal debates at the intersection of gun rights and drug policy as courts evaluate the implications of evolving Second Amendment jurisprudence. And man, oh man, I think this is fantastic news for everyone in the state of Texas, and I hope that this has rippling effects across the country, and that responsible cannabis users don't have to fear the worry about losing their Second Amendment right, because this judge stood for the Constitution. Shout out to this judge out in the great state of Texas, you guys. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Well, the Bruin opinion and the Rahimi case have set the stage now to strike down a lot of the tools, and the prosecutors call them tools that have previously been used. I call it a gun to your head to get you to cop a plea and settle cases. And this problem permeates into many sectors. I represent a lot of vets. And veterans do not want their name associated with using cannabis because of the Second Amendment problem. Okay? And it permeates throughout the cannabis community. That people that are naive and think that, I can just go admit I smoke weed, get caught with a gun, have traditionally been spanked pretty hard. It's about time the courts took a look at how did we historically handle people who use intoxicating agents. Okay, and this is an intoxicating agent. And when are they a threat to society such that we can temporarily disarm them? Mm-hmm. Historically, they didn't permanently disarm you because you had a drink on Sunday night and may have been hungover on Monday morning. They didn't do that. And that's where they're going to look at this. It gets somewhat complicated when you get really addictive substances like meth and cocaine and heroin, where there's still a serious question about people's ability to control their behavior. I don't know how we tether that one out, but people who smoke weed are not a danger for under weed intoxication to go out and shoot a town up. That's what they were concerned about when people would get drunk. I mean, if you look at the cowboy movies, when you went into town,
the saloon,
they ask you, hey, you got to surrender your guns before you come in and start drinking. We'll give them back to you when you leave because you're a fucking idiot when you're drunk. Allowed that. But we got to a point where now, if you do a lot of things, they take your gun rights away. And historically, even being a felon didn't cost you your gun rights. They gave you your gun rights when they sent you home from prison. So there's a whole nother area that got started in '69 when the Black Panthers dared to show up with, semi-automatic weapons as they were allowed to do and scared the shit out of people in the United States. And they passed these draconian gun laws that if you're a drug user or a felon, you can't have a drug. Well, you can't have a gun. Well, where'd that come from? That's not historical. That's hysterical.
Oh, I like how you did there, Dale. That was some bars right there.
It is, man. It's New Year's.
Yeah.
And I wasn't too drunk last night, so my brain's still firing at least one cylinder this morning.
Hey, man, all we need is one, Dale. All we need is one. What do you think about this, Sohum?
I mean, I think it's great. It's a great ruling. I'm happy to see that happening in Texas, especially where, they have this proliferation of hemp-derived cannabinoids, and a lot of people consume that, and a lot of people own guns here. So I think it's a really important ruling. I'm slightly skeptical that law enforcement will look at that ruling and act accordingly immediately. I have a feeling they're going to test this ruling over and over and over again by continuing to prosecute people around the state. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I hope that they do continue to test this ruling, because this ruling was made out of sound judgment based off of how the article is written. It's based off of how the country was when the founding fathers were here, and since there was no justification for losing your gun rights for cannabis use, and it's not like they weren't using cannabis. Okay, we all know that George Washington had a seed exchange every year at the White House, and if you ever took a walk through the Capitol, you'll see that there is tons of marijuana leaves encrusted throughout the whole rotunda in our nation's capital and whatnot. And people can say whatever leaves they want, but we all know what leaves they are. And people grew hemp back then, and you know what I'm saying? Like that's just is what it was and what it is. And anyone that wants to be a denier, it is America. You have the right to be wrong.
Well, there's historical precedence in this. After the Civil War, especially in the border states, Mexicans along the border states recreationally used cannabis or marijuana. They called it marijuana. And so you began to see local regulations passed to go after, Mexicans in the area who smoked weed. And then as the blacks moved out of the South in the early part of the 20th century into the northern states, you began to see cities up there pass these anti-marijuana laws. And they were racially targeted. Let's just be blunt and clear here. We're racially targeted. And you can put all the lipstick on that pig you want. That's how they got started. And so historically, I don't have a problem going back and looking before we had the racial intervention into drug laws. How do we handle people who use drugs? You could go buy cannabis products. You could buy laudanum. When they invented heroin, they sold it to people to rub on your kids' gums to stop toothing problems. I mean, no one took this shit seriously until we have some landmark events. And when the Mexican Revolution kicked off, my God, California passed the first statewide prohibition against this. And then Utah, as these polygamists fled back into Utah, they brought marijuana with them. And Utah was the second one, but then it followed in rapid succession, where they had perceived problems with blacks and brown people in their area. They passed anti-marijuana laws. This is not even open to question. You might want to ignore it, but you can go Google it. I mean, simple as Google it and find out this is racial-based discrimination against people, and we should not tie our Second Amendment rights to race-based prosecution. It's just un-American. It's against the Constitution.
Yep. Quick question, Dale. What happens when, let's just say you are at a bar, getting drunk and whatnot, and you do get into an altercation with a firearm, do you lose if you're detained by law enforcement afterwards? Do you lose your gun ownership rights?
Depends on the circumstances.
See,
and that's the problem, because we need clarification. I like this decision because it's clearly directed at cannabis use. Okay, can't duck it, you can't hide and try to make correlations. No, it's about when you use cannabis, can we take away your Second Amendment rights temporarily or permanently? And I had a concealed carry for years. My son has one right now. And the classes teach you the circumstances in which you are free to defend yourself or others, and other circumstances where you could get yourself in trouble. So at this point, it depends on how you use it. But in my world, I don't care if you're drunk or not. If somebody pulls a gun out or a dangerous, deadly weapon and threatens you or someone around you, pop a fucking cap in their ass.
Yeah,
and we'll deal with the consequences later.
I heard that. Pow, pow, pow. How you like me now?
Well, that's what I was taught. 3 shots, 2 to the chest, 1 to the head. And then we'll talk about what you did to fucking piss me off and cause me to pull my gun out later. You're done.
Any final thoughts on this, Sohum, being out there in the great state of Texas?
I mean, like I said, I'm hoping that this sticks, and I hope that law enforcement honors this court decision and doesn't fuck with people for having cannabis and a firearm on them. But we'll see how that plays out.
All right, fair enough, and congratulations to Texas and all the 2A supporters out there. I hope, like I said, I hope this has rippling effects, not just across Texas, but across the country. And this is another good test case. I mean, we had one here in California too that we covered here, and so hopefully people are starting to get it together, and hopefully the NRA will start to back our movement on this. And we are going to keep this train rolling on this New Year's Day, you guys. We're going to roll right into attorney at law, Mr. Dale Schafer. And Dale has been an attorney since the Reagan administration. Reagan's been popular so far this morning. He has represented physicians, hospitals, insurance companies, cops, corrections officers, and for the last 25 years, he has specialized in cannabis law. He served a 5-year federal prison sentence for helping medical marijuana patients and managed to save his law license. He is blunt, honest, unconcerned with public opinions, and will tell you and show you how to piss up a rope. That's right, here is your favorite Tio Loco, and he is now broken away and started his own law firm, and you can find him at the law office of none other than Dale Schafer. Congratulations on the new gig, Dale. Congratulations on the new firm, and much love and much success on that.
Thank you. Happy New Year to everybody. I wish we didn't have this event in New Orleans, but you know, the world's a crazy place, and those that think it's not, they have rectal myopia. Okay, my story this morning comes out of M-Day Biz Daily, and this is one of those stories where it's hard to really get your lather up about this because it's rather boring, liability issues, insurance issues, but it involves cannabis consumption lounges. And the article's heading is, "Can liability waivers protect cannabis consumption lounge operators?" And this is by guest columnists Alex Leonowitz and Quentin Meek. These are attorneys, and if you're interested in their contact information, you can find it in the story. Now, I have represented many businesses and insurance and policies and procedures to mitigate problems that you anticipate you're going to run into become issues that a lot of these operators that have never run a business just don't understand. And Jason, you've run a business. You understand that if somebody walks in and they slip and fall and you didn't clean the floor up,
you're liable.
Get spanked.
Yep.
You're liable.
Especially in California.
Oh yeah. California they have the private attorney general that they get attorney's fees to come after you, and it's just hard to be a business operator right here. We just passed we have the ability for consumption lounges now in California. Nobody really understands how to do this, but they allow you to. Now, when you take a look at a business that's going to have people consuming what the public considers to be an intoxicating agent on site, you have multiple issues to consider, and this article raises the question whether you have somebody sign a liability waiver is actually going to protect you. Now, for some context, if you go to a gym and you're going to get involved in dangerous stuff, they're going to ask you to do a liability waiver. You're going to get into a boxing ring, they're going to want a liability waiver. When you go to amusement parks, you could, your ticket has a liability waiver on it. They don't want to get sued if you come onto their premises and get hurt. Okay? But if you have a liability waiver and you're serving intoxicating agents to people, it may protect you for that person while they're on your premises, but it's not going to help with a third-party claim if these people are just all messed up and should not be driving. They go out and get into an accident, hurt somebody. You're going to end up in a lawsuit. So that's one of the first things to understand. These liability waivers do not protect you. This person that you're serving goes out and gets in an accident, and they come back and say, hey, you should have been watching this person. They were too fucked up to leave there and get into a motor vehicle, okay, and drive. Mm-hmm. Another serious question about these is their enforceability. Don't forget that marijuana or cannabis remains illegal under federal law. And for public policy reasons, there are states and courts out there who will not enforce these because the bottom line subject is federally illegal. It's a crime to do it. So why are we going to give you a liability waiver or protection if you have somebody sign these waivers when what you're doing is criminal? Most of the states that have legalized cannabis have found a way around this federal preemption issue and people, falling on federal illegality. California did this in 2008, where unless you're forced to violate federal law, there's not a conflict with federal law, so we got around it. But there are still enforceability issues. The other problem is that even if you get a waiver from people and they're waiving the usual injuries that might come from, engaging in smoking or consuming cannabis in your lounge, if you have them sit on a stool and the stool is broken and they hurt themselves, okay, you still have a standard of care or a duty of care to your patrons not to get them injured. So basic negligence liability is still going to apply even if you have them sign a waiver. Can't get around that. Now, when it comes to the insurance you can get, most businesses get what they call comprehensive general liability. It covers you for the normal things you're going to encounter with people being in and around your business, okay? But I'm telling you, you got to read the declarations and exclusions parts of these policies, because it's very possible that they have exclusions for activities that are federally illegal, things like that. So the average person may not understand how to read these damn things, but I've been in the insurance business for a long time. You start with the declarations and exclusion page, and then you proceed from there. And if some insurance person's selling you something that their policy says they're not going to cover, that's a problem. Run away from that insurance agent. Okay? Now, there's also liquor liability and products coverage that is available for people who serve alcohol. And the insurance industry has been asked to provide these. They're limited. There's a lot of exclusions that go into these things. And I haven't had time to go ask my insurance brokers out there whether they're offering this. It's something that they will begin to push for. If it's going to be allowed, there'll be something similar to liquor liability, product liability. If you're selling these things and there's a products problem, you're going to need coverage for that product if it makes somebody sick. Okay? Now, one of the bigger issues is what we call dram shop laws. And these were put in place because people would go to a bar and just get drunker than Hogan's goat and then stumble out, get into a car and drive away, and they would wreak havoc on the road. So they placed liability, it's called dram shop liability, on the persons who served the intoxicating agent. And so you'll see that there's policies they have that when someone is too drunk, they stop serving them. Okay? You're too fucked up for us to give you another drink. I don't know how that works in cannabis, okay? I'm curious to see what you guys feel about this, because there are people who can just freebase cannabis oil all day long and they still function. For me, I'm unconscious, okay? So how do you develop policies to determine if somebody that you're serving is too intoxicated, if we want to use that word, for you to continue to serve them. I don't have an answer for that. I don't know that we have the science to support that. But it is one of those issues that's going to come up for trying to get insurance or a lounge where you want people to smoke weed and be able to get some food. Now you look at all the other goddamn problems that come along with it, and you wonder, do I really want to do this? Okay. Now, there's also a possibility for what we call malpractice, professional malpractice insurance, errors and omissions policies, if you will. And this would basically target advice that people were given by employees or owners of the business about how to consume, what to consume, when to consume it, things like that. And it turns out harming somebody. Okay. I don't know if those policies are available. You can certainly imagine that they would be called for, but whether you can get them or not, I don't know. But in my experience, what this requires is that you bring an insurance broker in and sit down with your attorney and you look for those risks. And if you can mitigate the risk with insurance, jump on that bandwagon. But for what you can't mitigate with insurance, you better have standard operating procedures in place where you can manage the risks internally combined with insurance to keep yourself from getting sued about something you are either uninsured, bare about, underinsured, and this could devastate your business. So I'm going to throw this back at you guys for your comments and input. But this is a whole new area that the person sitting there smoking doesn't care about until they're injured. Okay, the business owner needs to think about it from the gate and have a plan for it before it happens. Because, you know, attorneys are happy to take your money and represent you in court, but if you have a snowball's chance in hell of winning, then perhaps you shouldn't do the conduct in the first place. So back at you guys, what do you think?
This sounds like an ambulance chaser's wet dream right here, Dale.
Yep, you need to change their depends already.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Go ahead,
do these
please.
policies cover if somebody gets herpes from an unsanitized bong?
That's not how you get herpes, bro. That's not even possible. That's not. Okay.
There was an allegation, but that happened.
There was a rumor that was floating around by a disgruntled employee that was trying to float that around, but that's not how it even works, and you can't even catch herpes from that. That's not how it works at all.
That was a joke.
Just want to make sure. We don't want. There's a lot of fake news out there, so we want to make sure that, you know what I'm saying, people know what it was. And there was a ton of people, Sohum, when that came out, that believed that was actually a real thing. And so,
yeah,
you know,
I think most people with a brain were like, that person did something else to catch whatever they got and tried to blame it on whatever happened.
The problem is you said with a brain, and so once you did that, you disqualified mostly everybody.
Flat earthers are all gone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, most people that actually that have a brain believe that, but most people that actually think with their brain were able to see through the bullshit.
Well, my experience is that you can file a lawsuit for almost anything. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I, as a defense counsel, can be successful in having it thrown out or fairly limited, things like that. But, you know, it costs money. Mm-hmm. When you have insurance, I was an insurance defense lawyer for years. Call your insurance company. They, you know, look into it. They call me up and go, what do you think? Mm-hmm. You go in and we attack the pleadings, or we have the case, you know, limited or thrown out somewhere along the process, and it's not coming out of your pocket. If you don't have insurance coverage and they're going to bring in an attorney for you, you know, just to be blunt, attorneys are expensive. Okay. And the way I make a living is because of my experience and my time. And I expect to get paid. Yeah. Unless somebody give you pro bono work. I don't like involuntary pro bono work. In other words, if I do work for you and you stiff me, fuck you and the horse that brought you in. Okay, I'm out of the case, and I don't care if you fall off a cliff at that point. And I fired a bunch of people because, they think, you're going to do me a solid. You're from the hog farm. You know, you're going to do the righteous thing. Yeah, fuck you. I got bills to pay too. It gets very, very expensive. And in states like California, where they give you incentives to get attorney's fees, that's a premium just to settle these goddamn cases. It's very frustrating. So a plan ahead of time where everybody that manages a business understands where your risks are, what you're doing. You're cross-insured. You have certificates of insurance. You're additional insured and others policies. All the belt and suspenders you can do, and just hope to God something doesn't happen that falls outside of coverage. because you're done. Business is over.
Yeah, I know with West Hollywood, with Emerald Village, we do a lot of work of trying to help and create these types of standards for what is too intoxicated on cannabis. And it always boils down to just operators and staff just using common sense. You know what I'm saying? Just using the common sense, and just like bartenders do in bars. Is a lot of it is all based off common sense.
It's not like bartenders are breathalyzing people. They're they're looking for visual signs of impairment and making their using common sense to decide when to cut somebody off.
Yep. And once
where are those standards? And this is something I have a serious question about, because I've seen individual effects on people that are nothing like alcohol. If you give someone who's an alcoholic enough alcohol, they're going to fall off their stool. But there's a point where they can do a scientific calculation that you have too much in your system to be able to be trusted to operate dangerous equipment like a motor vehicle. There's no such standards for cannabis. And I appreciate you can teach people to look for signs of intoxication, but are they really signs of intoxication?
But Dale, that there's always outliers with these things, and even the system that we have for alcohol isn't foolproof. I mean, there's plenty of people that can have a more than 0.08 of alcohol concentration in their system and still drive just fine. Now, I'm not advocating for that, and I don't want people to take it as that, but there are still a decent amount of people that have a higher tolerance to alcohol and can do that with no problem. And so, I think it comes back to that old school saying of know when to say when. And you know what I'm saying? And it's like, if people need to listen to more Kenny Rogers maybe or something, you know what I'm saying? Know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run.
Yeah, but the problem is that there are multiple ways to consume cannabis. The only way that you consume alcohol is to put it through your GI system. You don't shoot it in your veins. You don't breathe it into your lungs, okay? So when it comes to cannabis, let's say a cannabis naive person takes an edible, and your employee says, "Oh, you'll be fine," and the next thing you know,
next thing
driving the car,
they're lethargic, and exactly.
She's going the wrong way on the freeway, okay? Those are the scenarios that give attorneys nightmares and insurance companies too, because there are no standards right now. And I suspect the insurance industry is going to have all sorts of exclusions in their policy, then demand to see your SOPs to make sure you're following these protocols, and exclude. If you don't follow protocols, we don't cover you. I mean, as an insurance attorney, I want to protect everybody, and including the insurance company. If they make a denial, it's because you knew we weren't going to cover this shit. You're not going to get sued for bad faith and things like that. Right now, it's just a nightmare for business owners, because you want to give people a place to come enjoy cannabis, smoke some, have a taco, whatever the fuck you want to do there. Eat some chocolate cake.
Have a taco, huh?
But these are the complications that you have to deal with as a business owner. That it makes you think, do I really want to get into this?
Well, one question, Dale. I mean, can't these businesses? I actually have two questions for you, Dale. One of them is, can't these businesses just create some type of a liability waiver that all customers would have to sign prior to entry that would eliminate their eliminate their exposure to something like that?
Well, that was the question in the article. There may be places where it works, and there may be places where it doesn't. In California, for public policy reasons, they may not allow all this to be enforced. And then transparency in these waivers. You have things hidden in there in small print. We call adhesion paragraphs in there that basically limit any exposure you have, when in fact you have standards of care imposed upon you as an owner of a business, which is not waivable for public policy reasons. Gets complicated to just get a waiver that, you can't sue us for anything because you signed a piece of paper. Courts would throw that in the trash and go, no, it's not a knowing waiver.
Interesting. And Chris Brady had a question for you, Dale. You had mentioned Hogan's goat. What is Hogan's goat? He wants to know.
Well, it's an old hillbilly story about a goat that gets into the sour mash. Gets fucking drunk.
Oh, he turns up. He has a party. You ever see the movie Animals Are Beautiful People, Dale? Or Sohum?
Never even heard of it.
Oh man, it was a fantastic movie. I encourage people to check it out. It's hysterical. There's a part where all the monkeys and the elephants go, and there's a part of time where the fruit ripens enough to where like they actually all get drunk, and they all are like eating the fruit, getting hammered, and it's like a whole bunch of drunk monkeys and drunk elephants and stuff all over in Africa, bro. It's hysterical. Well, on that, we are going to roll into our next commercial, and we are going to be right back. Are you all ready for America's new #1 D9 gummy line? That's right. We are bringing to you Parody Gummy. These vegan gummies are manufactured in a safe harbor facility, so you know they're going to be clean and safe. And they're not going to give you any of the runaround. Coming in, we have 3 amazing flavors for you. We have the Raspberry Riots. Also, we have the Sleepy Joes if you need something to help you sleep at night. And if you're feeling like raging and having a party time, that's right, we have the Pineapple Bad Hombre. If you're feeling like a bad hombre, make sure you head over to www.parodygummy.com and secure your bag today. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure that you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it. And YouTube will appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read on our website at www.highat9news.com. And again, Happy New Year, everybody.
Are you a business that's suffering from the hyperinflation that is plaguing America today? We have the solution for you. That's right. Patriot Business Financing. Head on over to www.patriotbfc.com and apply for a loan up to $2 million. Any state, any industry, even the cannabis industry, the CBD industry, as well as the industrial hemp fiber industry, secure up to $2 million today. And make sure that when you apply, you tell Paul you said hi from High at 9.
Yes, and we are back. We are going to roll right into Mr. Sohum Shah. Sohum has spent more than over a decade in the cannabis space with a focus on technology and compliance. And he's currently developing an athlete-focused brand called Grind, not to be confused with Grinder. That's right, it is none other than Mr. Sohum Shah.
Thank you, Jason, for clarifying that. Yep, this is Sohum reporting from Jason's favorite city, ATX.
Austin.
Today, we're going to talk about cannabis in my ancestral homeland in India. This is written by Gurvinder Singh at Al Jazeera, USA. So Ajay Raut is an indigenous farmer in a remote village in the southern district of India's Odisha state. The village is surrounded by forests and hills with the nearest market about 10 kilometers away. 34-year-old grows sweet corn and vegetables on his half-acre plot for both his family to eat and to sell at the market. But because his income is a pittance, he has taken up growing cannabis, a banned drug, for better income. He has about 1,000 plants located deep in the hills, which require a trek of at least 2 hours each way to get to, because the path is full of boulders and rocks, making it almost impossible for him to ride his bicycle or motorcycle. The cultivation of cannabis, also known as hemp, marijuana, weed, and ganja, is legal for medicinal use only in several states, including Uttarakhand, Gujarat, which is my home state, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, and Jammu and Kashmir, which became a federal territory in 2019. Odisha is not one of them. India has no legislation on narcotic substances until November 1985, when it brought in a law including a ban on the use of cannabis. The Narcotics, Drugs, and Psychotropic Substances Act of 1985 makes it illegal for a person to cultivate, possess, sell, buy, and consume narcotic and psychotropic substances, and doing so can lead to severe fines and imprisonment of up to 20 years. Rout, who's been in this business for the past 8 years, served 3 months in prison in 2017 and has been out on bail ever since. Income from the business is huge for him, which overcomes the fear of being involved in it. We live in a hilly terrain where traditional farming has very limited scope. I hardly earn 30,000 rupees or $357 a year by growing vegetables and sweet corn, whereas I can easily make 500,000 rupees or about $6,000 in just 5 to 6 months in cannabis cultivation, he told Al Jazeera. Rout said that he and other cannabis growers generally choose remote locations in the hills for their plantations to protect themselves from police raids. We're lucky to live amid hills as cops don't raid here as the path is too difficult to trek and reach the planting area. Planting season starts at the end of July and typically takes about 5 months for the flowers to grow, which are then plucked, dried under the sun, and packed and sold to traders. An 8 to 10 foot tall plant produces about a kilogram or 2.5 pounds of cannabis at a cost of 500 to 600 rupees per kilogram. That's about $5 to $7 per kg. Farmers sell that to traders for about $12 to $18 per kilogram. Cannabis cultivation, even though banned in Odisha, is highly lucrative business for the farmers as it brought them overnight riches. You can read a little bit more about some of the different people that they featured here in the article who are different cannabis cultivators and producers in India, but this is really interesting. India seems like they're starting to move some of their laws towards first allowing medical use, and I know there is some talk about trying to legalize it and allow for consumption. As of right now, it's a pretty restricted system. Smokable flower is not legal. It's available. It's widely available. Corruption is pretty rampant in India, so whether you're a producer or whether you're in Bombay smoking on the street, if you get caught, it's usually just a matter of you got to grease the palms, especially if you're smoking on the street in Bombay and you get stopped. They're not taking you to jail. They're definitely just trying to get a little bit of money out of you. But yeah, this is Sohum with High 9 News from the ATX. Let's kick it back to the team and see what everyone else thinks about cannabis cultivation in India.
Sohum, I'm a little shocked right now. I cannot believe that they have corruption in India.
I mean, we have corruption here too. They're just a little more open about it.
Is that's the definition? They're a little bit more open about it. Interesting way to put that.
Yeah, we call it lobbying here. They just call it bribery.
It's just amazing that all around the world, doesn't matter what your form of government, religions, anything like that are, if you try to take away something people want to do, you just can't enforce it. Okay, and in the 1830s, when O'Shaughnessy saw seizures in children stopped by putting tincture under their tongue, he thought, oh my God, what if we got here? But Ayurvedic medicine in India had been using cannabis for centuries, if not millennium. I'm not sure they know exactly when they first used it, but it was pervasive. They couldn't stop it then, and they can't stop it now. And I mean, who's getting harmed by this? In the United States, it was typically black and brown people. Well, in India, there's a caste system. I mean, who's really being targeted and harmed by this? And it's about time that the world got its head out of its ass and recognized that people want to do this. And, but when whoever's making money off it, you got to see do they want to make it legal. It sounds like the people getting their palms greased are the ones that don't want to make this legal because they got a good hustle going.
Yeah, it's interesting. So their medical system there, they are only allowed to make tinctures. And it took me about 10 minutes of talking to a friend of mine that lives out there who started a business to understand because there's no licensed cultivation at all. Everybody sells a tincture, but they get some plant matter from the government. I was trying to understand what it was. So the government pays basically, impoverished people out in the country to go and pick cannabis plants, whether they're wild or whether they're, somebody's illicit crop, and turn it into the government, and they grind up the entire plant, stems and all, into some homogenized mixture, and all of the producers buy that plant material from the government, which is just ground up plants.
Ooh, wow.
And that's what they make make their medical tincture out of. Yeah, it's not ideal.
So it's kind of like they subcontract an eradication team and then bring it all back, you know what I mean?
And then they ruin it.
And then they don't even,
It used to be made from hand-rubbed charas.
Yeah, that's my preferred way to smoke in India. Definitely that.
Yeah. Well, and I love temple balls, hand rub out of the mountains. Let's see what that does. But the point is, you cannot enforce a prohibition when people are violating your prohibition. The number used to be 8% 50 years ago when I was an undergrad. I don't know what it is now, but significant percentage of your population violates your prohibition. You can't enforce it. You end up with greed, graft, illegal activities, enforcement that makes no sense, targeted at the wrong people, blah, 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 just like we have here in the United States. So this is not our United States problem only. It's around the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't know about, I haven't heard Odisha is a place that has a lot of cannabis cultivation. A place that's usually associated the state with that is called Himachal Pradesh. That's where like Rishikesh is, and Manali is a place where a lot of production happens. So the good charas that you get in Bombay is called Manali cream. But because it's so prevalent there. Oh yeah, that's the good
stuff. Sounds like some them F-boy strains, you know what I mean?
It's that type of charas that's been produced in Manali and brought down into the cities for decades, probably longer than that. But because there's so much production in Himachal Pradesh, there's actually a push by local farmers and the state government to try and legalize production and regulate it and tax it. I'm sure they'll have similar issues to what we have here, maybe worse, once they have discrepancy between their federal and their state law. But it's good to see at least some movement happening there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I find this super fascinating because India is the #1 market globally for cannabis overall.
There's 1.5 billion people. Even
exactly.
2% of their population consume. It's a massive number.
With a long history of using charas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and ganja is a Sanskrit word too. Ganja is the same thing as sensimilla. So somebody back in, I don't know, who knows how long ago, thousands of years ago in India, discovered that if you pull the male plants out, then you can produce more potent cannabis, and that's what the term ganja means.
It's probably a feminist, huh?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. But yeah, it was when when Indians were slave traded to Jamaica and the Caribbean to work on sugar plantations that they brought that terminology with them, and which is why Jamaican Rasta people use that term as well.
Fascinating history.
Well, the first California prohibition was targeted at people from India working in agricultural work in the Central Valley here. They mistakenly called them Sikhs and other, it's like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, but they're brown people from India and they're out there growing this shit. We want them to stop. And they use the term Indian hemp rather than marijuana. Mm-hmm. But it goes back to India, where that plant has been used for thousands of years. And even when the British were there, they did a survey in the 1890s of how prevalent it was.
The British Indian hemp report or whatever, right?
Indian Hemp
Commission. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And it was everywhere. Mm-hmm. And they had warehouses and they brought it there. They weighed it, taxed it, and it was... maybe there was people who were in insane asylums that were called hash eaters, but it wasn't a big problem. They allowed them to do it and made money off it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if I recall, the conclusion of that commission report was that cannabis consumers are generally docile and nonviolent and not really a threat to society.
Well, and you take that, you look at the Panama Canal report in the 1920s, Mayor LaGuardia's report in the 1940s, the Schafer Commission report. They all said the same thing.
The Schafer Commission, huh?
Raymond Schafer, former Republican governor of Pennsylvania, did a report and said, "What the fuck are you guys doing criminalizing this stuff? Leave it alone." Nixon lost his mind. Mm-hmm. He lost his mind over that. Basically threw the report in the trash. But it lined up people that honestly looked at it and said, "Why are you going out and spending money trying to enforce it? Let people who want to sell some weed amongst each other, just leave them alone. Mm-hmm. Stop it."
Mm-hmm. Well, shout out to India and shout out to all the cannabis that they grow out there in their illicit fields, so per se. You know what I mean? Just naturally.
Up in the mountains.
Yeah. Shout out.
Just like California. Yeah, up in the mountains.
Because the guys in India love cannabis, and much love to everybody out there that's fighting that fight. And on that, we're gonna roll into our final commercial, and we are gonna be right back. Oh, and we are back. And I have two quick stories to wrap up this New Year's Day with you guys. I think you're going to like this one, Dale, and Sohum, I hope you pull out your calculator because there's some... we know we couldn't have a New Year's show without some story with some cop math involved, right? And this cop math is provided by the state of California today, you guys. And this is when I saw this is a press release that the state of California put out to boost themselves and fluff themselves out. Okay, Dale. So just giving you the heads up, because the state seizes nearly $23 million in illicit cannabis in Oakland alone. Continuing the administration's efforts to support consumer safety in California legal market, Governor Gavin Newsom today announced that the California's Unified Cannabis Enforcement Task Force, that's UCETF, sounds like a cryptocurrency, recently seized close to $23 million in illicitly cultivated cannabis in East Oakland. Not even West Oakland, Dale, East Oakland. Okay? In a quote, they're saying, the recent operations in East Oakland are a further proof point of California's dedication to protect consumers and the legal cannabis growers while holding those who attempt to undermine the state's cannabis market accountable. In the operations, UCETF seized over 21,000 illegal cannabis plants worth a total of $17.8 million, you guys. The searches also led to the seizure of more than $10,000 in cash, as well as over 3,000 pounds of illicit cannabis flower worth more than $5 million, they say. The California Department of Fish and Wildlife, the CDFW, led the enforcement operations with support from the Department of Cannabis Control, the DCC, and the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration, the CDFTA, and the Oakland Police Department, you guys. In a quote, they say, this successful operation, led by the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, is one of several recent efforts by the United Cannabis Enforcement Task Force to safeguard public health, protect the environment, and preserve the integrity of California's regulated cannabis market, end quote, said Nathaniel Arnold, chief of law enforcement at the CDFW. In an additional quote, they say, as shown by the amounts seized in these search warrants, these large-scale illegal operations are a burden on California's valuable environmental resources and need to be removed. Last month, the UCETF served current search warrants in East Oakland and Hayward that removed almost $20 million in illegal cannabis and cannabis products from the illicit market. In 2022, Governor Gavin Newsom created the UCETF to further align state efforts and increase cannabis enforcement coordination between state, local, and federal partners. The enforcement actions protect consumer and public safety and safeguard the environment and deprive illegal cannabis operators and transnational criminal organizations of illicit revenue that harms consumers and undercuts the regulated cannabis market in California. And since its inception, you guys, the UCETF has seized and destroyed over 162 tons worth of illegal cannabis, worth an estimated $536 million, though through over 350 operations. The task force has also eradicated 526,037 plants and seized 167 firearms and arrested 59 individuals. The passage, and this is just a little bit of information in regards about it. This is just an overall thing about the law. The passage of Proposition 1 by California voters adds rocket fuel to Governor Gavin Newsom's transformational overhaul of the state's behavioral health system. These reforms focus existing funds to prioritize Californians with the most serious mental health and substance use issues who are too often experiencing homelessness. They also found more than 11,150 new behavioral health beds and supportive housing units and 26,700 outpatient treatment slots, you guys. So they're giving themselves a big old pat on the back. And this is definitely some cop math involved, and they found all this in East Oakland alone and Hayward, but mostly all in East Oakland. This is just amazing to me that they can find all these illegal operations, but yet the Oakland PD and law enforcement agencies can't find the people that are robbing illicit legal operators in the state of California when crime is running wild, and these legal operators are just targets for crime and theft.
Yeah, I like got 59 people statewide. I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly,
what
right.
Kind of, what kind of investigation is that? There's more than 59 people involved. Why you only get pinch 59?
That's just the people that were doing the watering, Dale.
Yeah.
59 people for £500 million or $500 million worth of weed, as they claim.
Yeah, exactly. This is just total cop math, bro. And I feel like it's even worse than cop math because it's state of California math.
I feel like they're pulling the plants out of the ground with the dirt still on it and putting that on the scale.
They do that.
Saying, oh, this is 20 pounds, whatever.
Also, too, when they find finished product, Sohum, they also weigh it all with the package and everything and all that. And you know what I'm saying? So like it's all gross weight. Yeah, it's not. You know what I'm saying? So if they're putting that in glass jars, you know what I mean? That's going to add a lot of weight to that.
It's all propaganda. That's what it is. It's propaganda. Mm-hmm. And the real problem is California allows local governments to ban this or to severely restrict it. And as long as that's going on, the black market just laughs its ass off as they do not have enough assets to go after all the black market operations. They just don't. It's a misdemeanor soaking wet. 64 made sure that they don't have these heavy criminal fines anymore. And so what are you going to stop enforcing violent crime and crimes of moral turpitude, lying, cheating, stealing, to go after people growing weed? Is that what you now think you're going to do? Because this public's not going to support that.
Mm-hmm. You know, go ahead, Sohum.
I was just going to say, from what I remember in Los Angeles County and even Orange County, the sheriff doesn't really if they find an illicit grow, they put a cease and desist on the door and you have like 30 days to clear out of there. They don't really even do shit about it.
You know, here's the other part.
No money in it. That's the problem, Sohum. There's no money in it. Okay. And the problem with enforcement right now or changing these laws is that the flow of money has started. And if you interrupt the flow of money to these law enforcement agencies, these different local governments and these agencies inside the state, if you interrupt the flow, they're going to fight you. Whether your end goal is moral or just or anything like that, it's all about political power and flow of cash right now. And it's just disgusting.
You know, in regards to this is just so crazy because they missed out on one big numerical factor that they could have included into this press release, since they like to gaslight everybody so much. And that is how much they saved the power grid from all of these guys stealing the power. Like, how come they don't put this into their press release? Because they're always talking about how California's in an energy crisis and we got to have these rolling blackouts and da-da-da-da-da. They don't say, hey, you know what? Because we did this big old bust, we're not going to have a rolling blackout the next time because we just secured enough power because we stopped these guys from stealing it.
I actually give them props for not saying that, because that would just be asinine.
They should say it. They should say it. They say this other asinine shit, Sohum. They should say that asinine shit too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy that they didn't say more asinine shit, I guess.
The thing with law enforcement, Sohum, the bigger the bust, the bigger the boost, and they're kind of shortchanging themselves right now.
That's
but we don't get also is figures on what are they spending to go do these enforcement actions.
Oh, they don't want to talk about that.
No, they don't want to talk about that. But because we make this legal and we get the black market to go away for economic reasons, you save all the enforcement dollars, okay? No one wants to be, transparent about how much we're currently spending and who's paying for this.
And also, the funniest part too about this whole article, or this whole statement from the state of California is just hysterical to me. Is they got all these millions and millions of dollars, but yet only reported that they seized a little over $10,000 in cash, which is really the only thing of value that they actually seized, because all the rest of it is it's just all just pulling numbers out of thin air, and we're going to quantify it as this. It's fucking such
cut
bullshit.
Down a clone, it's all of a sudden worth $10,000.
Yep. Well, I mean, the DEA, they used to quantify everything as at $25 a gram, and so when they would weigh that's how they would come up with their numbers back in the day. And so, just like to your point, Sohum, if they pull a plant out of the dirt, you know what I'm saying, they're weighing That plant with the dirt, not to mention it's also the wet weight also too. You know what I mean? And you use, when cannabis dries, you lose 3/4 of the weight. Yeah. Exactly.
I'm sure by their calculation, people are getting like 7 pounds per light too.
Yeah, but even the federal government says it's only about 10% of the wet weight. I mean, cut it off at the ground with no roots, weigh it wet. The finished product is like 10% of the fresh wet weight is what you get out of that. But that's not the math they want to use. No. For me, they counted plants, irrespective of how big they were. When you get to 100 plants, dude, you're going to be with a spork for 5 years.
They only counted plants on you, Dale, because the 99 plant threshold is when you can be charged federally, and so that's the reason that for the plant count. That's the only reason for the plant count.
Oh, I get it. That's why Jerry Brown wouldn't take my law license away. He took a look at this and went, "This is bullshit. We're not taking your law license away for what you did." It took him 3 years to get to 100 plants. Give me a break. Come on.
All right, and I got one last funny story for you guys. This is classic New Year's story for you guys. What happened last night, kind of tale, even though it was the night before last, because a baby monkey in cannabis found in a Rolls-Royce during a Madera traffic stop, and the driver was arrested, you guys. That's right. File this under unusual traffic stops because the California Highway Patrol reported an officer stopped a Rolls-Royce Ghost that had been observed speeding along a Highway 99 near Avenue 17 on Monday night. Get out of here. You're mean to tell me that a Rolls-Royce Ghost was speeding? Get the hell out of here. Discovered in a luxury car. Hold on, Dale. We're getting there. Discovered in a luxury car during the stop and subsequent DUI arrest were cannabis, enough to warrant another charge, and a baby spider monkey. Animal control took over care for the monkey, who was found wearing a pink onesie and is believed to be 1 month old, according to the CHP. The International Fund for Animal Welfare says spider monkeys mostly live in tropical rainforests and are in an area stretching from Mexico to Bolivia, and they are known to be trafficked into California, and 3 babies were found at the U.S. border checkpoint last year, you guys. Monkeys are one of several animals that are illegal to keep or transport under California law, and the driver was booked into Madera County Jail on several suggested charges, including DUI, possession of cannabis for sale, and possession of an exotic animal, the CHP said. Oh, well, happy New Year to this guy rolling around. You know what I'm saying? Got his little spider monkey rolling around with him. You know what I'm saying? Probably handing him his drink when he needs, you know what I'm saying? A little thirsty while he's behind the wheel. Man, oh man, I can't wait.
My advice is don't break more than one law at a time. This dumb shit violated 3 at a time. Come on, dude.
I'm just glad that, he's getting pulled over. Maybe he throws the weed out the window. I'm glad he didn't throw the monkey out the window.
Well, you can go to Vegas and you can buy monkeys as pets. You know what I'm saying? They have a whole pet shop called Monkeys and More.
You can't bring them into California, though.
Yeah, but you can't bring them in California. You can't transport them in California either.
Just rolling dirty, bro. What are you supposed to do? Just throw the monkey in the trunk? You guys are fucked up. I'm supposed to just leave my monkey at home.
Being high and getting pulled over and being like, "Fuck, what am I going to do about this monkey?"
Well, good thing he didn't catch an animal abuse charge for spanking his monkey.
Yeah.
I think that's lewd conduct.
Yeah.
Oh man, you guys, this
The story is hilarious. I saw that on the news this morning. It's like, how stupid can you be? Well, we know humans can be pretty stupid.
Yes, they can.
And if you're going to break a law, don't make it 2 at a time or 3 at a time.
Yeah,
an idiot.
Look, if you got an illegal monkey in your car, don't speed.
First of all, if you have a Rolls-Royce Ghost, why don't you have a driver driving you and you just chilling in the back?
I wonder if was the monkey wearing a seatbelt?
Oh man, well he was wearing a pink onesie.
I hope he was wearing.
So I'm guessing it was a girl. I'm guessing it was a girl because it was a pink onesie. So
yeah, I'm sure they would have tacked on a seatbelt charge too if the the monkey wasn't belted.
I'm surprised they didn't put the name of the monkey into this article, but maybe it's because she was a minor.
Yeah.
Man, oh man, you guys, you know, New Year's, Happy New Year, you guys. Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big thank yous to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst for helping us keep the lights on over here, and thank you to our correspondents. Dale, congratulations on the new law firm, bro, and Sohum.
Thank you.
Staying on your grind for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do all this, and thank you to Cloud Media Partners. Adam, getting ready to fly back to California today. Happy New Year. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show. Dale and Sohum, would you like to say a Happy New Year's message to everybody out there before we get out of here? We'll go Dale, and then we'll go Sohum, and then we'll close out.
Well, I would, and I want people to understand that 2024 is in the history books and probably in the toilet. 25's coming. We have a strong government. Have faith that we have people in place to keep track of what's going to be coming. And let's look forward to a good year where we stop trying to kill each other and blame everybody else for the problems in this country. Let's try to unite over something and have faith that we live in the best country that's ever existed on this planet.
That's right. They say, Dale, a lot of people that I've talked to said, text me back. They're like, New Year's doesn't start until January 20th. But you guys,
well, there's some.
I want to reiterate what Dale said. 2024 is over. Let's look forward. We got a new year. Hopefully, we get some positive improvements in the cannabis industry. Keep our fingers crossed. Maybe we get something happening at the federal level too. But if nothing else, I hope you enjoy your day off. Take some time, go eat an edible, smoke a joint, something. Watch some college football if that's what you're into. But yeah, relax and Happy New Year, everyone.
Or watch some reruns of High at 9 News.
That too.
And don't take your monkey with you. Leave it at home.
Yeah. Don't abuse your monkey, guys.
Yeah.